Hey guys, welcome back to RBR. I'm Raz, your host, and today we get a very special first look at the newest generation of what is possibly the most exciting sports car in the world. This is the brand new GT3 of the 992 generation, the first product to come out of Weissach for this generation. Incredibly, it's still a manual, it's still a naturally aspirated 4-litre engine, and as you'll see later in the video, it still sounds pretty incredible for a car that is fully compliant with the new EU regulations that have left rivals completely neutered. Now, of course, during COVID and the numerous lockdowns and issues that we have with travel around the world, I could not travel to Germany to give you a first look at this car. But when Porsche press ask you to do something cool with the material that they have for GT3 in preparation for the launch, you say yes, particularly when you're me. So today you have a first look at this. I don't think UK drives are very far away, so take this as a first taster before the main course that's coming. So guys, 992, always wider. It's got a stiffer new aluminium body, better technical features across the car, and to my eyes, a design that harkens back to 993 and G model in the best of ways. I think it's the best looking modern 911 that we've ever had. We tried the Carrera S as the first review on the channel, and it was so fast that I was stunned that this is essentially a base model car. I recently also drove the actual base model with 0 options, and you'll see soon just how good that car is. After this, I eventually convinced myself to get a Turbo S, and we found that to be absolutely mind-blowing. With 650 PS and driving dynamics that much closer to its Weissach partners, it was truly a thrill ride. But GT3 is about none of that. It's not about power. It is about the pure, unadulterated driver's experience. And this new GT3, finished in the launch color shark blue, is no different. So let's start with one of the main figures that is important to a car like this, which is derived mainly from motorsport, and that is weight. Compared to the previous GT3, this maintains the same weight of 1435 kg in the PDK and 1418 kg in the manual. And considering the fact that the 992 generation is heavier due to technical changes, and of course it's a larger car being wider all round, this is a great achievement. Then we come to the next headliner, the engine. As I said, still naturally aspirated, not a turbo in sight anywhere. It's the same 4-litre that we last saw in the Speedster, though it's changed from that. But it's almost identical to the one that you find in the brand new GT3 Cup car, which is incredible. You're sharing an engine with a real motorsport car in this, the first edition of the road-going GT product, which is pretty crazy. Now, in terms of power, it's up from the last generation. We have now got 510 PS, which is a change of about 10 PS, so it's not a huge amount. Similar story with the torque figure. We've come up from 460 to 470. And as we said, the car comes standard with the 6-speed sports manual. This has an auto blipping feature with it as well. And the PDK is an optional extra. You get the 7-speed unit. But this PDK is actually a newly developed unit that's lighter than the last one. Speaking of the PDK, whereas in every other 992 until now, you get the epoxy strange blade gear changer, in this you get the exact same lever in PDK as you find in the manual. And it can be shifted to the side and you can change sequentially. I just didn't like that in my Turbo S, and having the proper gear shifter in the middle means a lot for anyone going for the PDK. With the PDK version, you will do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds and 0 to 200 in 10.8, which is mighty impressive. We've also got a new intake system on the front, which features 6-barrel throttle valves inspired by motorsport. I did a bit of reading about this, and essentially when throttles open, they allow for completely unrestricted airflow. This engine still revs all the way to 9,000, and it sounds fantastic. And that is via a new stainless steel exhaust system, which has still got 2 gas particulate filters in it. But despite that, it's lighter compared to the previous GT3 one, and it still sounds really fantastic. Have a listen to it right now. So to my ears, this sounds fantastic, particularly when you get to the upper limits of the revs at 9,000. It really screams like a proper motorsport car. I love the sound of the upshift as well, and all of this is in the background of rivals like, say, the GT Black series, which sound really quite neutered. So excellent job by Porsche on the exhaust system. Next, we head to the suspension, and the most exciting part for the car nerds is on the front. Gone is the McPherson strut of old, and now we've got double wishbone suspension on the front. Now, this is not something uncommon in your normal mid-engine cars. They've had them for a long time, but they've never been able to engineer this into the 911 series. Now, the benefit of this, of course, you get for the camber stiffness and even more precision from what was already an really agile car. Of course, the car has a front axle lift, which now has a smart memory function in it, which I assume means it'll remember the lift position or something, but we'll have to see when we actually drive the car. In terms of the rear axle, the 5-arm system now has additional ball joints in the lower wishbones to help with precision. We've also got special adaptive dampeners across the suspension for better comfort driving, but more breadth of ability in terms of the track driving, so you get the best of both worlds. Rear wheel steering is still in the GT3, 2 degrees either way for your low cornering speeds and high speed turns as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about weight saving. First of all, the brakes, which are larger, 17% lighter, despite going to 408 millimeters from 380. Of course, as is always the case with GT3, we've got lightweight glass across the car. Our rear seat cover is lightweight as well. We mentioned the stainless steel exhaust system, which is lighter than before, despite the additional particulate filters, which is great. But there's even further things. We've got a carbon fiber reinforced bonnet here that we'll talk more about later. You can order a carbon fiber reinforced roof as well. And our rear wing, of course, is also carbon fiber. Though for me, sometimes it's the small things that they change that intrigue me. For example, the starter battery, which is a whole 10 kg lighter in this car. And all these changes allow it to maintain a power to weight ratio of 2.8 kg per PS, which is keeping it really close to race cars as well. Now, let's move on to the aerodynamics of the car. The first thing, which is quite interesting, is the rear diffuser, which is inspired by the 911 RSR. Now, this, alongside a fully clad underbody, allows for 4 times the amount of downforce compared to the previous car, which is damn impressive. On the rear, I think the thing that you notice most when it comes to aerodynamics as a new feature in this GT3 has to be the swan neck rear wing, which is really quite interesting. Again, that RSR Le Mans car is the first one to do it. The GT3 Cup car has it as well. And in its normal position, it's 50% more downforce than the previous car. If you put it in its performance position, which is for circuit only, it generates 150% more downforce, which is very, very impressive. And I think, despite our reservations of how it might look, it looks really quite clean and gorgeous to my eyes. So all of this makes the car sound very similar to the 991.2 GT3 in terms of performance and weight and all of these things. But this is where the Nurburgring comes in, and people often say, why do we have these lap times? They're completely irrelevant in day-to-day driving. But they really do showcase just how far a car can come from one generation to the next. And when this new GT3 was driven again and again on the ring by Lars Kern and Jorg Bergmeister near the end of its development, it has done Nürburgring times consistently on the longer 20.8 track of 6 minutes 59 seconds, under 7 minutes, which is incredible. And on the shorter one that was used previously, 6 minutes and 55. To put that in perspective for you, the last GT3 RS did that shorter lap 1 second slower. That's how far along we've come with this new GT3. And this is just the base model. I mean, that's mind-blowing for me. Of course, like any car looking to make a great lap time, is running the great Michelin Cup 2Rs, which everyone seems to be using these days. Those are an optional extra. Now let's talk a little bit about the design, because I think this is the one part that's going to turn some of us off. I think the 991.2 is a more beautiful looking car on the front, at least. I think it just looks prettier. Whereas this one is very, very motorsport derived. I mean, if we compare the front directly to the Cup car, you can see that lower portion, and I'm mainly talking about the black plastic part, let's be honest, looks identical to that. So this seems more of a tool for a purpose. I do like the daytime running lights though. It's very different, let's just say that. We've got some extra vents on the carbon fiber bonnet here, which allowed the release of hot air through them. I like that we still have the lines that you'd find on the normal 992, inspired by G model in 993, etc. You can also get darkened front headlights as well as part of Porsche exclusive manufacturer, but we'll go into that side later. Side of the car, pretty standard GT3, I think, if we ignore the look of the wing. Got 20-inch wheels on the front, 21 on the rear. Nothing on the rear wheel arch, but the car is, of course, the wider body. And then finally, the rear end. It's really quite nice. I like the fact we have the single bar light. We've got a small ducktail spoiler, which which seems to have some kind of mesh underneath it. Of course, we have the swan neck wing, which I think looks gorgeous, and the diffuser, in my opinion, probably the best looking one we've ever had on a standard GT3. We've got the typical double shotgun exhaust in the middle as well, and the rear, I think, is gorgeous. I've got no issues with the rear. I think it looks absolutely spot on. Overall, a very handsome looking GT3, but very brutish on the front, very, very cup car, very, very motorsport, and I think that's going to turn some people off a little bit. Of course, you've got the usual track bucket seats that you'll recognise from the previous GT3, but more interesting, you get a unique driver's zone with the 2 screens on the side, reduce the information and only give you things like tyre pressure monitoring, and you get shift lights as you would find in motorsport. Of course, my favourite bit, if you have the PDK, is you get the lovely gear shifter. Apart from that, on the rear, you can either have the blank cover or you can get the Club Sport package, which is in fact free for GT3 buyers, and that will give you the roll cage and the 6-point harness. Now, in terms of the future, we've already seen the Touring doing the runs. That'll probably look something like this. Rumour has it that it might also feature a PDK as an option this time, because Mr. Pruninger says people love to use it day to day, having a daily Type 911 with all of the benefits and suspension and steering, etc. of the GT products. So I think that's going to be quite a hot seller. I'd love to see a rear bench as a family man as an option within that. After this, of course, 3RS, we've seen it doing the round. It's got a gigantic wing on the rear. No doubt the design will change a little bit. You'll have the rear arch vents, etc. But we'll have to wait for that. And most importantly, I'm excited about this car. I'm excited about driving it. That's going to be happening soon. And guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this first look. It's very difficult these days with all the lockdowns and all these other bits and pieces to entertain you guys. But we're doing our absolute best at RBR. So if you have enjoyed this and you've enjoyed the effort that I've put into it, please do like, subscribe and share this video. And I'll see you guys next time.